All right, so in this video, we're going to try to get some live weather data to Google Sheets. So I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to try to get a cell that basically updates with current weather, let's say every day, or you could do it more often or less often. I'll show you how to set it up. And the second thing I'm going to do another tab to store some historical data. So every day we'll save that day's information, let's say, to a new row. And the next day we'll add another row with next day and so on. So to do this, I have this blank spreadsheet and I also need some place to get this data. So I'm going to go with this openweathermap.org, and they have an API service. And if we go with pricing, they have this free level that basically, see, you can do 60 calls per minute and 1 million calls a month, which should be plenty for what I'm trying to do. So I need to register and get an API key for this. So I'm going to do that by clicking on this Get API Key and go with the registration process. Once you log into your account, we're going to go to API Keys, and you're going to get your API key. So I'm going to copy this, go to my spreadsheet, go to a script editor, and name this project really fast. So let's just store this in a variable. And I'm just going to basically paste that key in quotes. Let's make this a constant, actually. So going back to my spreadsheet, I'm going to rename this one and call it location. And I'm going to add a couple of more tabs here. So location is where we're going to basically select which location we want the data for. So I'll just type location, and below we'll be adding the city, state, or whatever location we need this weather information for. And we may add some other options here as we go through this. And then the second one, I'm just going to call this history. And the first one, we'll just call this one live data, I guess. So these are going to be the tabs I'm going to be using. And I need to make sure I get this cell and figure out what the location is. So for that, we need to get to this location tab in our spreadsheet. So we'll start by taking the spreadsheet app and getting the active spreadsheet, and I'll store this in a variable SS for spreadsheet. And then I'll do worksheet for location. That's going to be my variable. So I'll get that SS, the spreadsheet, and do get sheet by name. And the name of the sheet is location, which is basically what we have here, the name of the tab. And then I can save the information in the cell that's in A2. So I'll create a constant and I'll take this variable and do get range. And we'll do that cell, which was A2. And we'll do get value to get the value in that cell, which is this A2, which is what I have here, A2. So I also need to have a cell where I'm going to actually place the information after I get my data. So I'm going to put this in this live data tab, and we'll make a couple of cells for this. I'll just call one high and the other one low. And then we'll basically just place the information we get from this service to here, to the cells high and low for the day. So one is going to be B4, the other one is going to be C4, coming from this live data tab. So again, I have to get those cells so I can work with those. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to store another variable for that other tab. And then we'll do a couple of constants. And the first one is going to be where we're going to store daily high temperature. and that would be B4. And then I'm going to copy and paste this and do the next cell. Notice how I'm not doing get value or anything. I'm just getting the reference to the cell. All right, so now that I have this, I'm going to go to the API and look at their documentation. So if we go on top here, see there's API. And here, see there's current weather data. So if we look here, some of these are available for free accounts and some are not. Here it's saying that's available for both free and paid subscriptions. See current weather data. So this one is also, for example, available, but this one is not. So some of these services are only going to be available for a paid account. Others would be available for both paid and free. But for me, I'm just getting my current weather data, so that should be fine for this. So I'm going to go under API docs. And if I scroll down, it should give me an example. See, call current weather data for one location. And that would be an example of that. See, we can do the name of the city, and then we need to provide the API key here when we make the call. And we can also see do city, state, or city, state, country code. So all of that is going to be this Q parameter. And there are also these other parameters here. See, we can do the mode. So we can get it in XML, HTML, or JSON, which is what I'm going to be using. And there's also units and language parameters here that we could use if we wanted to. So let's start by just using the plain and simple way of doing this, where we have to just plug in the city name here and API key over here. So I'm going to just copy this link. So hopefully they do have an HTTPS service available for this. I guess we'll find out. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to, again, do some sort of variable here. And I'll just use backticks for this to put the string. And what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to change this to HTTPS as protocol like this. And here, instead of city name, I'm going to do JavaScript $ and brackets here, which should allow us to basically just use a variable here, which will be the location, which is coming from here. And then we need the API key. So again, I'm going to do that $ and brackets, and then key variable, which is coming from here. So at this point, hopefully I should be able to call that API and get some information back. So let's see what happens when we try to call it. So for that, we're going to use the URL fetch app. So here we're going to fetch this URL, and the URL is going to be this URL. And that should give us the response. And we're going to get the response in probably string format. So doing this get content text should probably get us what we need. So I'm going to call it res text for response text. So at this point, let's just try to console log this to see if we get anything back. So I'm just going to do this, save this, and we're going to run this function. I'm just going to rename the function right now. And I'm going to run that function. So we'll need to do all the permissions. So request failed. So let's take a look and see what it says. City not found. Okay. Let's try to log the location or the URL itself to see what this looks like. And I'm going to comment out these 2 lines for now. So that seems correct to me. I'm going to try to copy and paste this URL in the browser to see what happens. And let's just not do the state. So if I don't do the state, that seems to work. So let's go back and check the API docs again for a second, and then we'll come back to this. So here it says it has to be state code, whatever that means. So we need to check what that means. So let's just search for Chicago here. So it seems to do Chicago, US. Or we can also seem to be able to get it with this. Let's try that and see what happens. So what if I change this to comma US in here too and rerun this? Let's see what happens. Okay, there it is. So now it works. So basically we got this JSON response. And here, see, we have coordinates, we have weather, we have temperatures. So I'm going to change the way we get the temperature here. Let's do it in Fahrenheit. So if I go back to this, see, we have this units. And right now, I assume it's under standard. And we're going to do metric or imperial. Let's just do a drop down for all these different three. So I'm going to go back here and do metric. And I'm going to do a drop down here. So let's try one of these. So I need to get the value here. So that's B2 cell. So let's go get that. Still from location worksheet. So we can use that. We're going to give this a different variable name. And then we need to probably add that to our call here. So I'm going to do an ampersand and whatever that was called in here, units. And we're going to do units equals to $ brackets for our JavaScript string. And we'll just pass that variable units right in here. And hopefully with that, we'll get it in the units selected over here. So let's try this. There it is. So let's try to change this to imperial. And that's now in Fahrenheit. So what I need to get out of here is this temp min and temp max. And it seems like there's also an option for the language that you could choose. So you could pass it as another option with another ampersand equals lang and choose the language. And you should read this learn more to see what languages you have available. I'm just going to stick with English in this case. So now that I get this information back, I want to just get the part that I need, which is going to be this temp min and temp max. And those seem to be, well, I need to check where they are. So we have these coordinates. So that seems to be this. Then we have this weather that seems to be an array. And base, station, main. So I guess main is the part that I'm after. So inside of main, we have this temp, temp min, temp max. And this would be, I guess, the current temperature. This would be the minimum. This would be the maximum. And this is feels like. So you could get whatever part you want. I'm just going to get temp min and temp max. And that should be coming from this main. So to do this, we need to first make sure we convert this response to JSON. So we're going to do that by doing json.parse. And we're going to pass that response to this. And then we should be able to access different parts. So for example, if I do this, and then inside of this, I do main, that should give me that part. So if I run this, see, it gives me that part of this object. And now inside of this, if I want to get, let's say, temp min, then I can do another set of square brackets and do this. And now I should be able to get to that. So now I'm going to do temp min and temp max, and I'm going to write those in some cells. So I'll just store those in a variable first. And then I'll place those in these cells right here, high and low. And if you remember, I already have references for the cells that I stored in here. High cell. So I'm going to take this and do set value to this temp max. And we're going to do the low cell the same way. And that's going to be our temp min. And by doing this, I should be able to now run this code, and that should just place those values in my spreadsheet right here. So let's just run this to make sure it works. So as you can see, I got my information in Fahrenheit right here. Now, if I want to change that, I can change this to metric and rerun the same code. And if I go back and check, that should give me this. I'm going to switch it back to imperial. So now we have our cells with this information. So at this point, if we wanted this to update every now and then, let's say every day, because we're just getting the highs and lows. Now, if you're getting the part that I was doing before, which I'm going to have to console log to show you what that is. Not that one, but let's console log this. Now, that was this part of the main. See, there is the temp. Now, I got the min and max, but temp should be your current temperature. So if you wanted to get the current temperature right now, you could just do temp here and get the current temperature. And then you might be wanting to update that maybe 10 times a day or however many times a day you want to update it. So for me, I'm just getting highs and lows for that day. So I'm just going to do this once per day. And to be able to get this once per day, we basically just need to run this once per day. So to do that, I'll go to edit and do current project triggers and add a trigger. And this is that function, get current data, that I've created right here. And I need to run that as time-driven event. So basically now I can select how often I want this done. So see, we have like specific date and time, minutes timer, hour timer, day timer. Just remember, there are limits on this API calls depending on the account you have. So I'm just going to go with day timer. And then every day, we're going to run it at a certain time. So let's say I'm going to run this 8 to 9 a.m. every day. And that should basically run the script every day about that time and update the spreadsheet with that day's information with mins and highs. So if I hit save, so now it should just automatically run every day and do whatever it needs to do to get this updated. Now that should take care of us getting our data to our live data tab every day to update these values to our current day's values. Now I also want to store some historical data. So basically every day I want to have something like date when this happened and high and low, and maybe you could update other information too, so we can get like how cloudy the day is and all of that information from this object. Basically, you just have to navigate through this JSON object. And if you want to learn how to navigate through JavaScript objects, I have a video for that too. But for this, That's good enough for me. Now, I just want to be able to also add that information. Now, since I'm running this function every day just once, then I'm gonna also just use the same function to add this data to this history without actually needing another function. Now, if you were running this live data maybe more often, maybe you run it 10 times a day or something like that, then you need two separate functions. One you would do like this to just get your current data, and you would do a second function to just get the historical data and do another time trigger to do it once per day. So since I'm just doing this once per day, I'm gonna be using the same function. So what I'll do, in addition to just updating these two values in the cells, I'm also gonna add some information to that history. And that means we need to store a reference to that sheet. So let's just copy paste this and make sure we update it with the right tab name. So at this point, once we have the reference, I'm going to copy that tab and go down here and take that. And because it's a worksheet, it should have a method append row. And in this row, basically we pass an array of comma separated columns. So for me, the first column should be the date and time when this happened. So I'll just do new date to get the current date and time, comma. And then I'm gonna need the min and max. See, I have high and low in this order, so I'm gonna do max first. So temp max is gonna go here, comma, temp min is gonna go here. And that should just add a new line to that spreadsheet every time we run this code. And if we run it once a day, it should run and add another line every day and get the temp max and min for that day. Now, I could just wait a day and the script would run itself. But now, because I'm testing, I'm just going to manually run this function, get current data, to see what happens. So if I go back to my spreadsheet, see that adds this new line. It gives me the date, time, high, low, and it also updates this. So if I just clear all of this just so that we can see again, I'm actually going to keep this line because you'll see that now it's going to add another line below this when I run this again. But the live data now I cleared, there's nothing in there. I'm going to go back and rerun this. And you'll see that puts the values in here. And then if I go to history, we also get another line added to this that gets us high and low, which is going to be the same because it's the same date. But if we run it once per day, it's going to update that day's information with that current date and high and low for that date. And there we have it. That's how we can get some weather data from openweathermap.org and basically just plug it into our spreadsheet. And that should do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.